She told me she just needed time to think. But 2 days later, I saw her on a date with my coworker. When Lena told me she just needed some time to think, I didn't panic at first. I mean, sure, my heart sank like a stone, but we'd been through rough patches before. 2 years together, living in the same apartment, sharing bills, talking about adopting a dog. You don't just throw that away over one weird week of silence and shorter than usual goodnight kisses, right? I remember that exact night. She stood in the kitchen, arms crossed, eyes puffy. Her hair was tied back like she always did when she was overwhelmed. She said she needed space. Not because she wanted to break up, just time. She didn't even pack a bag, just said she'd be staying at her sister's for a bit to clear her head. I asked if I did something wrong. She said no. It's me, she mumbled, looking away. I'm just confused about what I want. I hugged her, told her I loved her, told her to take what she needed, told her I'd be right here when she was ready. Then I spent the rest of the night pacing the apartment like a ghost. Our place suddenly felt too big, too quiet. I found one of her earrings under the couch and just stared at it like it might tell me something. What was she thinking? Was this about something I did? Something I didn't do? Work the next day was a blur. I could barely focus during meetings. My team lead, Sienna, noticed I was off, but I brushed it off with a lie about a sick family member. The last thing I needed was to explain a maybe breakup to the whole damn office. I had lunch with Seth, like usual. We've been grabbing burritos together for almost a year now. Same parking spot. Same booth at the taco place. He's a chill guy. Funny, talks a little too much about his gym routine, but easy to be around. That day, he was ranting about some project delays while I picked at my food. I wasn't really listening. I kept checking my phone, half hoping Lena would text me something, anything, but nothing came. That night, I tried calling her. No answer. Left a voicemail. Hey, just checking in. Hope you're okay. Silence. The second day was worse. My stomach was in knots. I kept refreshing our shared calendar like an idiot, as if some magical appointment would pop up and tell me when she was coming home. Her location was turned off. I didn't want to be the obsessive boyfriend, so I didn't press. I just waited. Then came the punch in the gut. I wasn't planning on going out that evening, but the apartment felt suffocating. I decided to go grab dinner alone, maybe get some air. There's this little Italian place near our office. Nothing fancy, just a cozy spot with dim lights and good lasagna. As I walked in, I wasn't even looking around. I just wanted to eat and go. And then I saw her, Lena, sitting 2 booths ahead of me, laughing, wearing the green dress I bought her for her birthday, her hand resting on the table. Across from her, Seth, my coworker. He was leaning in, smiling that dumb gym bro smile. His hand touched hers just for a second. They looked so comfortable, so familiar. It wasn't a first date. It wasn't even a nervous flirtation. It was intimate, practiced. I froze. I don't remember how long I stood there before turning around and walking straight out. The hostess asked something I didn't hear. My heart was pounding so loud it drowned everything out. My legs felt like rubber. I barely made it to my car before the wave of nausea hit. I sat in my car for an hour. Just sat, staring at the dashboard like it held answers. This wasn't some random guy. This was Seth. The guy who knew I was struggling. Who asked me how Lena was doing just hours ago. Who told me I looked tired and offered to grab me coffee. Who sat across from me every damn weekday and talked about fantasy football while I nodded along. And her. She told me she needed space to think. Think? About what? Whether Seth was a better option? I didn't text her. I didn't call. I didn't rage. I didn't cry. Not then. I drove home, closed the blinds, and sat on the floor of our bedroom. Her pillow still smelled like her shampoo. Her book was still on the nightstand. Open to page 213. I stared at that book for a long time. I wanted answers. But more than that, I wanted to understand how long it had been going on. Because that wasn't day one chemistry I saw between them. That was something else. That was practiced. That was betrayal. And I knew then, without even checking, this wasn't new. It had been happening right under my nose. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. I laid in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind spinning like a broken machine that couldn't shut off. Every laugh I'd heard at that restaurant echoed in my head. Every look they exchanged. Every single time Seth had asked me about Lena. Had he just been gathering intel? Was it some sick game? By morning, I felt numb. I went through the motions, brushed my teeth, made coffee, took 2 sips and dumped the rest. I left for work earlier than usual, needing to get out of that apartment before it swallowed me whole. When I got to the office, Seth was already there, sitting at his desk, typing, sipping from his stainless steel water bottle like nothing had happened. Like he hadn't just been out romancing the girlfriend of the guy who sat 10 feet away from him. He looked up and smiled. "You look better today, man. Get some sleep?" It took everything in me not to punch him right then and there. I forced a nod. "Yeah, feeling a little better." He nodded back, totally casual. Then launched into some story about his workout the night before. I pretended to listen. I watched his mouth move and thought about how easily he lied. How good he must be at pretending. I made it through the day somehow. Took long bathroom breaks just to breathe. Stared blankly at spreadsheets I couldn't focus on. When I got home, I went straight to the shelf in the closet where we kept our tech junk and dug out Lena's old iPad. She barely used it anymore, said it was slow. But I remembered she never logged out of anything on it. The battery was dead, so I charged it, my hands shaking the whole time. When it powered on, I tapped into her messages. Most were synced with her phone. Nothing stood out at first. Then I opened her Instagram DMs. There he was, Seth, months back. It started innocently enough, reacting to stories. A laughing emoji here, a compliment on her outfit there. Then came a message late one night. "Hey, don't tell my name, but you looked insanely good today." That was dated 4 months ago. I scrolled. My mouth went dry. Flirting. Inside jokes. Plans to accidentally bump into each other at the bar Lena and I frequented. References to things I didn't even remember. Days where she'd told me she was working late or hanging out with her sister. There were photos too. Selfies. One of her in a sweater I thought she only wore at home, smiling in a way I hadn't seen in months. And worst of all, she never pushed him away. Never told him to stop. In fact, she encouraged it. She joked that I was clueless and that it made it hotter. She even sent him a photo of our bedroom once, captioned, "Where the magic doesn't happen anymore, LOL." I stared at that for a long time. My chest burned. My hands felt ice cold. I wanted to throw the iPad at the wall, smash it. But instead, I did something else. I screenshotted everything. Every message. Every photo. Every date and time. I wasn't sure why yet. I didn't have a plan. But I knew I needed proof. Proof that I wasn't crazy. That this wasn't just some misread situation or momentary lapse. This was premeditated. Rehearsed. Hidden behind my back for months. And they had the audacity to lie to my face. I couldn't look at her things after that. I gathered up her remaining clothes, the perfume bottle on the sink, the half-used hairbrush, the book from her nightstand. I dumped them all in a box, taped it shut, wrote her name on top. I was done waiting. The next day at work, I was silent. Seth came by my desk twice. The first time, he asked if I wanted to grab lunch. I told him I brought my own. The second time, he leaned in and said, "Hey man, you good? You've been kind of quiet lately." I stared at him. Really stared. Then I said, "You ever think about how easy it is to pretend to be someone's friend while you're stabbing them in the back?" He blinked. "What?" I shook my head. "Nothing. Just thinking out loud." He laughed nervously and walked away. That night, I sent Lena a text. Just 6 words. "Your things are in the box." She replied an hour later, "Can we talk?" I didn't answer. The next day, she showed up at the apartment around noon. I heard her knock, peeked through the peephole and let her stand there. She knocked again, then called me. I answered that. "What do you want?" I said. I know this looks bad," she started. "It is bad, Lena. It wasn't supposed to be like this. I never meant to hurt you." "Then why did you?" She was quiet. I could hear her breathing. "I was confused," she whispered. "And Seth, he understood me in a way I didn't expect." "Seth? Seth understood you?" I laughed, bitter. "You mean the guy who spends more time flexing in the mirror than reading a book? That guy? You don't have to be cruel." "No," I said. "But you had to be honest. And you weren't." Silence again. "I loved you," I said. "And you lied. Every time you kissed me, every time you came home late, every time you smiled and told me you were just tired, you were choosing him." She didn't deny it. Instead, she asked, "Can I come in?" I said no. "Then can we please just talk somewhere?" I said. "We just did." Then I ended the call. I watched her from the peephole as she stood there, unmoving. Eventually, she picked up the box, hugged it to her chest like it meant something, and walked away. I didn't feel victorious. I felt hollow. But I knew it was far from over. Because Seth still sat across from me at work every day. Still smiled like nothing had happened. Still wore the mask of a friend. And I was done playing nice. I didn't show up to work the next day. I needed space. Not the kind Lena had asked for, the real kind. I called in sick, turned off my phone, and drove to the lake an hour out of town where we used to go during better days. I sat there on the hood of my car and watched the water ripple for hours. The silence was unbearable at first. then strangely comforting. I didn't know what to do. I didn't want revenge. Not really. I wanted answers. I wanted a time machine. I wanted to look Seth in the eye and ask him why. But more than that, I wanted to understand how I could have been so blind. When I got back that evening, I noticed I had 3 missed calls from Lena, 1 voicemail. I didn't listen. Then I had a text from Sienna, my team lead. Hey, everything okay? Just a heads up. Seth mentioned something about you going through a breakup. If you need anything, I'm here. I didn't respond, but her message stayed with me. That night, I finally let myself cry. Not because I missed Lena, but because I missed who I thought she was. Because I missed the version of me that trusted people without question. That person was dead now. The next morning, I woke up with a different kind of clarity. Cold. Focused. I went back to work like nothing had happened. Seth waved at me when I walked in. I nodded back like we were still friends. I sat across from him all day and answered his questions like I always did. But inside I was watching, measuring, planning. I started paying attention to everything he said. The people he talked to. How long he lingered at someone's desk. I wasn't jealous anymore, I was curious. I started asking quiet questions to the right people. Offhand comments like, Seth's a smooth talker, huh? Or, that guy ever stop flirting? Just enough to get a reaction. And slowly, a pattern started to emerge. He wasn't just a snake with. He'd flirted with Sienna before, apparently messaged her late at night when she hadn't asked for it. Another intern had blocked him months ago after he made a joke about initiation that made her uncomfortable. One of the other guys in marketing said Seth bragged, about hooking up with a married coworker in the backseat of her car. It was all there. I just hadn't wanted to see it before. That weekend, I went back to the iPad and exported every screenshot into a folder. I opened a blank document and started writing. Not for revenge. For closure. For truth. I laid it all out. Dates, quotes, photos, conversations. The timeline of Lena and Seth's betrayal. I included the flirtatious messages, the comments about me, the birthday dinner she lied about attending while she was actually in his apartment. I pieced it together like a crime board. Because that's what it felt like. A crime against my dignity. When I was done, I created a PDF file, titled it simply, For Reference. I didn't know what I was going to do with it yet. Then something unexpected happened. I was in the break room, refilling my coffee, when I heard 2 of the girls from HR whispering near the fridge. I swear he gets away with everything, one of them said. That's just Seth, the other laughed. He's hot, so people let it slide. I turned, slowly. What do you mean by that? They looked startled. One of them waved it off. Oh, nothing serious. He just flirts with everyone. It's kind of a running joke. A joke? I asked. Even when they're uncomfortable? The room got quiet. The shorter girl, the one from HR, said more carefully, He's never crossed the line. Officially. But yeah, it's been noticed. That night, I sat alone and thought hard about what to do. I didn't want to be the guy who destroyed someone's career out of spite. But what if it wasn't just me? What if Lena was just the latest in a string of people he manipulated for his own amusement? What if no one had ever stopped him because no one ever had proof? I did. And suddenly, I knew what I had to do. Monday morning, I scheduled a 15-minute meeting with Sienna. I walked into her office with a flash drive in my pocket and a copy of the PDF on my personal email, just in case. I closed the door and sat down across. I need to show you something, I said. It's about Seth. Her face changed immediately. What kind of something? Personal, but also professional. It affects the team. I slid the flash drive across her desk. She plugged it into her laptop. The silence in the room as she clicked through the screenshots was so thick, it felt like I was breathing underwater. At one point, she stopped scrolling, looked up at me. This is Lena? She asked. I nodded. And you're still working with him? Every day. Not because I want to. She kept going. By the time she was done, she leaned back in her chair and rubbed her temples. Jesus Christ, she whispered. I'm not asking you to do anything, I said. I'm just tired of pretending. I needed someone to know. That's all. Sienna nodded slowly. Thank you for telling me. I stood up to leave, but she stopped. You did the right thing. I didn't know if I believed that yet. Later that week, there was a quiet meeting behind closed doors between HR and Seth. He came out of it red-faced and tight-lipped. He wouldn't look me in the eye. I didn't ask what they said to him. But the next day, I noticed he'd been removed from our client rotation. A week after that, his desk was empty. And still, no one had said a word to me. Not Sienna, not HR, not Seth, not even Lena. But the silence this time, it didn't bother me. It felt like peace. I thought I'd feel better when Seth disappeared. And for a while I did. His desk sat empty for days before anyone dared say anything out loud. Some people whispered that he got reassigned. Others guessed he quit without notice. A few probably knew the truth but kept their heads down. I never confirmed or denied anything. I just kept working. It wasn't about vengeance it was about making sure I could look myself in the mirror without seeing a doormat. And then Lena showed up again. It had been almost 3 weeks since the box, since the voicemail, since the knock on the door I ignored. She texted first. Lena. Hey, I heard what happened with Seth. I didn't respond. The next day, I got another. Lena. Can we please talk? Just once? Still nothing from me. Then, Saturday morning, I opened my door to leave for groceries and nearly tripped over her. She was sitting cross-legged against my apartment door, like a sad rom-com cliché. Wearing a hoodie I recognized. Mine. Her eyes were bloodshot. No makeup. No act. Hi, she said quietly. I didn't say anything. I knew you wouldn't answer if I called again. You're right, I just wanted to explain. I sighed. Lena, what could you possibly say that would make anything better? She stood up slowly. Nothing. Probably nothing. But I still have to try. I didn't invite her in. We ended up talking in the parking lot, leaning against the hood of my car, the same one I'd sat on the night after I saw them at dinner. I made a mistake, she said. That's not what this was. She bit her lip. Okay, no. You're right. It wasn't just a mistake. It was a choice. A lot of them. And you made them over and over again. She nodded. I didn't mean to hurt you. But you did. Every time you smiled at me while texting him. Every time you told me you were with your sister. She was quiet for a moment. I think I felt invisible, she said. I stared at her. What? You were always working. You were always tired. We stopped talking about things that mattered. I felt like I was living next to a stranger. So you decided to sleep with one instead? She flinched. It didn't start like that, Lena, I said. It doesn't matter how it started. It matters that you chose him over me, repeatedly, and then lied about it. She looked down. And it wasn't just some stranger, I added. It was someone who sat next to me. Every single day, she covered her mouth like she was going to cry again. I know, she whispered. That's what makes it worse. I knew exactly what I was doing. I shook my head. Then why? Why not just break up with me? Because part of me didn't want to lose you, she said. I kept telling myself it wasn't serious with him, that it was just something temporary, something stupid, and I was supposed to wait for you to come to your senses? I don't know, she said. I think I was hoping I could just reset everything. I thought maybe if I took some space, I'd realize how much I missed you. But instead, you realized you preferred someone else. No, she said quickly. I realized I didn't know who I was without you, but I also didn't know who I was with you. I looked at her, really looked at her, and it hit me how far gone. There wasn't even hate left between us. Just fatigue. A hollow ache where love used to be. I don't know what you want from me, Lena. She wiped her eyes. Nothing. I just needed to say it out loud. She pulled something from her pocket and handed it to me. A small key. My old apartment key. I'm sorry, she said, backing away. You deserved better than what I gave you. Then she left. And just like that, it was over. The final thread. After she walked away, I stood there for a while, staring at the key in my palm. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just exhaled, like I had been holding my breath for weeks and finally remembered how to. That night, I packed the rest of her things she hadn't asked. Photos, keepsakes, a birthday card she made me years ago. I drove to her sister's place and left it at the doorstep. No note, no message, just closure. The next week was eerily quiet. I didn't have to dodge questions at work because no one asked. Sienna treated me with a new kind of quiet respect. The HR girls nodded at me in the hall. And still, I felt this weird buzzing tension under my skin, like I was waiting for something else to fall apart. Then it came. I got a notification that someone tagged me in a story on Instagram. I opened it. My stomach dropped. Lena. She'd posted a picture of herself at a beach. In the caption, sometimes you have to let go of toxic people, even if they pretend to be perfect. No names, no context. But enough people followed us both to know who she was talking about. Within minutes, I started getting DMS. Old college friends, a few mutuals from work. One guy even asked me, dude, what did you do to her? I didn't respond. I wanted to scream. Instead, I posted nothing. I said nothing, but I saved the post, just in case. Because if she thought the story was over, she was wrong. I was just getting started. The post stayed up for 2 days. Every time I opened Instagram, I saw her smug little caption still sitting there, racking up likes and passive-aggressive comments like, good for you, queen, and men will always show their true color. At first, I thought maybe it was just for attention. Maybe Lena needed to rewrite the story in her head so she didn't feel like the villain. But when a former coworker I barely talked to DM'd me a screen recording of Lena responding to a comment saying, "It's sad when someone pretends to be supportive but actually tries to sabotage your happiness," I knew she wasn't just rewriting history. She was burning it to the ground and rebuilding it in her own image. I didn't post anything in response. I wasn't going to fight her on social media like we were in some middle school slap fight. But that didn't mean I was going to stay quiet forever. I had something better. The company where Seth and I worked hosted an annual mid-year offsite. Nothing huge, just a few presentations, catered food, some drinks, and a chance to build morale. It had been postponed for months due to budget stuff, but this year they were making it happen. A Friday evening in one of those sleek rooftop venues downtown. A few weeks after the Lena drama peaked, Sienna called me into her office and asked if I'd be willing to present on a recent client project. I hesitated, then agreed, not because I cared about impressing anyone, but because an idea was already forming. I didn't want revenge, not exactly. I wanted clarity, and I wanted it in front of the people who'd heard whispers and rumors and seen the Instagram lies without ever knowing the truth. So I spent the next week prepping my presentation like usual, except for one additional slide deck I saved separately. The night of the offsite arrived. Everyone was there. Marketing, HR, even the COO made an appearance. The vibe was light, people mingling with drinks, laughing over sliders, and I kept my distance until it was time to present. When my name was called, I walked up to the podium and plugged in my laptop. "Tonight I want to walk you through a case study," I began, but not the usual kind. A few confused glances, a few chuckles. I flipped to the first slide, a blurry photo of me, Lena, and Seth, taken at a work picnic last summer. I was smiling like an idiot. Lena had her arms around me, and Seth was giving the camera a thumbs up. "This is me," I said calm. "This is my girlfriend. And this is my coworker." Silence. I flipped to the next slide. A screenshot of the first DM from Seth to Lena, dated 4 months later. There was a ripple of gasps, a few nervous laughs. Over the next 3 minutes, I laid out everything, briefly, factually, calmly. I showed a sanitized version of the timeline with dates, messages, quotes. I never used crude language. I didn't call her names. I didn't slander. I just showed the truth. Slide after slide. How she lied. How he smiled in my face while texting her at night. How I found out. How I stayed quiet. How I gave them the chance to come clean. When I was done, I paused on the last slide. A black screen with 3 words in white text. "Choose better people." Then I closed the laptop. The room was dead quiet for a moment. Then came the whispers. The soft buzz of dozens of tiny conversations firing all at once. I didn't wait to hear them. I walked off stage, handed the laptop to Sienna, and left. By the time I got home, my phone had blown up. Sienna had texted me, "Holy shot, I didn't know it was that bad. Thank you for trusting." A colleague I barely spoke to had messaged, "Respect, man." That was powerful. Even the HR girl who once laughed about Seth being hot wrote, "I'm sorry for how I brushed it off before. You didn't deserve that." But the one message that stopped me cold came from Lena. "Lena, what the hell did you just do?" Lena, "People are messaging me. Are you insane?" Lena, "You embarrassed me in front of everyone." Then, after a 5-minute gap, Lena, "You're seriously a narcissist. I should have left you sooner." That was the moment I realized something. She wasn't sorry I'd been hurt. She was sorry she got caught. I didn't reply. I didn't have to. Because now everyone saw what I saw. Not the fake captions. Not the curated victim act. The real Lena. The one who lied, gaslit, and blamed everyone but herself. I poured a drink and sat on the balcony staring out at the night. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel angry, or broken, or small. I just felt clean. I knew the fallout wasn't over. That Monday would be awkward. That people would whisper. That Lena would probably post some long healing story about how she'd been abused by narcissists or emotionally manipulated by someone who dared to tell the truth. But I also knew I didn't owe her silence, and Monday morning was strangely calm. No one stopped me at the door. No one pulled me into an office or asked me to explain myself. But the looks, they were loud. Some people glanced up from their desks and immediately looked away. A few offered quick nods or tight-lipped half-smiles. One guy from accounting gave me the slow clap when I passed by the vending machine, like I'd just scored the game-winning touchdown. It should have felt vindicating. Instead, it felt surreal, like I had stepped out of my own life and into someone else's, where I was no longer the guy who got cheated on, but the guy who stood up and said something. Sienna stopped by my desk just before lunch. She didn't say much, just handed me a coffee and said, "Good work, Friday," on all of it. I thanked her, I didn't need more than that. Later that day, I checked Instagram. Lena's story was gone. In its place was a black screen with a white quote, "Sometimes the people you trust the most are the ones who ruin you." No tags, no name, just implication. And in the comments, "You don't owe anyone your side. Their guilt is not your burden. Proud of you for speaking your truth." Her followers ate it up, but I didn't feel the need to post my own version because I knew anyone who mattered already saw what they needed to see. I'd said enough. By the end of that week, Seth's desk was reassigned to a new hire. I never heard if he quit or was officially let go. The office didn't speak his name again. It was like he'd never existed. His legacy was silence and tension, and I was just fine letting it rot there. As for Lena, she texted me a week later. A long message this time. No blame. Just carefully crafted reflection. "I've been thinking about everything that happened, and I realize I made a lot of selfish choices. You didn't deserve how I handled things, and I'm sorry I turned my shame into anger. I wish things could have ended different." I stared at the message for a long time. It wasn't nothing, but it wasn't what I needed, so I didn't reply. She reached out twice more after that, once to ask if I'd be open to grabbing coffee, just to talk, and another time to tell me she saw something that reminded her of me. Both times, I left her on red. Not out of cruelty, but because there was nothing left to say. I started going to the gym, took some weekend trips on my own, reconnected with friends I'd been too distracted to stay close with. Every time I told the story, when I felt like telling it, I watched their reactions. That mix of shock, then rage, then this quiet, empathetic pain in their eyes. And every time I felt lighter. One night, I took a walk through our old neighborhood, past the restaurant where I saw her with Seth. The same window seat. It was empty this time. Clean tablecloth, wine glasses turned upside down, waiting to be filled. And I realized something. That moment broke me, but it also freed me. It forced me to stop seeing people as who I wanted them to be and start seeing them as they really were. It taught me that silence doesn't make you strong. Truth does. And that walking away without setting fire to everything doesn't make you weak. It makes you sane. A few months later, I got a new job. Different city, better pay, fresh start. I packed up what was left of that life. The pictures, the furniture we'd chosen together, the memories that no longer hurt, and I left. On my last day in town, I opened that old message from Lena one last time. I hovered over it, then deleted it. Not to erase what happened, but because I didn't need to carry it with me anymore. And when I turned the key in the ignition, with the windows down and the past in my rearview mirror, I smiled for the first time in a long time. Not because everything was perfect, but because I was finally free. Lee.